Rahman Rahim. Welcome back. Today we are going to start our lesson about division of labor and specialization. Okay, what do we mean by division of labor in our farm or production unit? This can be defined like this: that whenever we divide the whole production process into smaller parts, and each worker is assigned to perform a specific task. So this is called division of labor. Division of labor means division of labor can be denoted by this division of labor. So division of labor means to divide the whole production process, into smaller parts and each worker is assigned a specific task to do. Task to perform. So this is called what? Division of labor. For example, we say our education in the school is also divided into smaller parts. Like we are having 6 hours schooling, so we have divided these 6 hours into smaller intervals. We say these are the class periods. So in every interval, a specific subject is taught by a specific teacher. So this is called division of labor. Actually, division of labor is present in nature as well. If we say what is the basic unit of our living organisms, that is called a cell. So when we talk about division of labor, so stomach cells, they are performing a function of digesting the food. Whereas the heart cells, they are pumping blood into our body. And all the other different organs of our body, they are performing a specific task. This does not matter that the stomach cells can perform the function of heart. This is not the case. So we find that the division of labor is present in the nature as well. So when all the organs or all the parts of a production unit, they work together, then it will make easier for the producers to produce more output. So by division of labor, the aim of the producer is to increase the efficiency of the workers or increase the production of each worker to increase, and their per unit cost will also be falling. So their aim is to increase the number of units produced by each worker or by all the workers. Their productivity will be increasing, and it will also be promoting specialization. The division of labor will show us the promotion of specialization. And what do we mean by specialization? It means to repeat the same task again and again. To repeat the same task again and again. The same task again and again. And this repetition will make a person specialist, and this process is called specialization, or we say it is also to concentrate on a specific task again and again. Like I have been teaching economics for the last many years. So I'm concentrating on my task every day when I have a class. So it makes me more proficient, it makes me a specialist of the subject. So when every person is performing his task again and again, he is concentrating on his task. Therefore, this process of concentration of the workers on their specific work will be making them specialists, and this process will be called specialization. So division of labor will result into the specialization process, and due to specialization, we have many benefits like productivity of workers will be increasing, and due to increase in productivity, the per unit cost of producer will also be decreasing, and ultimately he will be able to earn more profit. His profit maximization will also take place due to this specialization. Okay, now I come towards what are the different levels of specialization. Levels of specialization. What are those levels? There can be three levels of specialization. One is called is it covering? No. Okay, I use the other part of the board because it is not covered by our camera lens. So we use over here, the division of labor is erased. Now we use the level of specialization in this area. Levels of specialization. There can be the three levels. One is called individual level of specialization. Individual level of specialization. Individual level of specialization. You might have seen this is present in medical profession. Very frequently we find there is a heart specialist, there is eye specialist. So a doctor who is specialist in treating the heart diseases, he cannot treat a patient who is having eyesight problem. He is his own work specialist. So individual specialization means one person is specialist of his task. An accounting teacher is specialist of teaching accounting. He does not know anything about physics or mathematics, although he might have studied. He has studied, but right now by performing the same task again and again, he has become the specialist of his own subject or his own profession. So we say the individual level of specialization is present. Even a carpenter, even an electrician, they are also the specialists, although they do not have that level of education or the other level of training, but by repeating their task again and again, they have become their specialist of their work. Okay, individual specialization can also be found in the production. Like one firm is producing a single range of product, like one firm which is producing only the football, so that is also called individual level of specialization. It can also be found on the piece of land where one piece of land is only producing one type of product. So that is also called individual level of specialization. It does not mean it only exists in the workers. It can be existing in other factors of production like in enterprise or in land or in capital as well. Like one type of machinery is only producing one type of product. Okay, so individual specialization that is present. And we see if one person is going to do a specific task or one piece of land is performing to produce a specific type of product, this is promoting individual specialization that will increase their productivity, and this will result into interpersonal trade. Interpersonal trade. Trade means what? Trade means exchange of goods and services. When people have become their own specialists, they will become dependent upon each other. They cannot produce everything for themselves. Like carpenter cannot produce wheat for himself, for his family, or a doctor cannot produce furniture for his personal needs at home. So the doctor is dependent upon the other people who are the specialists of their own task. Whereas a carpenter or a teacher, he is also dependent upon the medical services provided by the doctors. So when they interact with each other, they are involved in a type of trade which is called interpersonal trade. Like I usually give this example, a carpenter, he produces furniture, whereas a doctor is treating the patients. So when carpenter wants to get treatment, he goes to the doctor. He is dependent upon doctor. So when doctor wants to buy the furniture, he goes to the carpenter. So when they are dealing with each other, this is called a trade is taking place. They are exchanging their goods and services with each other. So their trade is called interpersonal trade. So everyone is specializing. They are producing more than their personal needs, and those surpluses produced by every specialist that requires trading activities. So these trading activities will be taking place among the individuals when they become specialists, and trade, when it is increasing, it is further promoting specialization. Like other services like transportation is very equipped, then we will be finding more trading and more goods will be exchanged with each other, and that will increase the living standard of the country as well. So individual specialization is going to have the interpersonal trade. The volume of trade is very less as the level of specialization is very small. Now come towards another level of specialization. What is that? That is called regional level of specialization. What is this? The regional. This is the second regional level of specialization. Here we find a specific region of the countries, or within one country we find different specializations. Like if we talk about our city of Sialkot, Sialkot is specialist of producing sports items. Whenever we talk about a city of Faisalabad, this is another city, or we say this is specialist of producing textile, famous in textile producing, although it is producing many other goods, like Sialkot is also producing many other goods. So sports is the specialization of our region, and textile is the main specialization of Faisalabad region. So these are the two regions. When they are achieving a level of specialization, we say this is called regional level of specialization. So what happens when people want to buy, those who are living in Faisalabad, they want to buy sports items, they come towards this region, or they deliver, or they place an order with the people who are selling sports goods in Sialkot. And when these people, Sialkot people, or the sellers or buyers, they want to buy the textile items, they contact Faisalabad. So in that way, what is happening? Both the regions are interdependent upon each other in their goods, whatever they are produced due to regional level of specialization. Now the volume of trade, look here. Here we had the interpersonal trade. The volume of trade was very, very less. It was not creating too much trading activities. But once we find a regional level of specialization, it will promote inter-regional trade. What it promoting? Inter-regional trade. Now the volume of trade will be quite higher than the interpersonal trade. Now the two regions are involved, and this regional specialization is based upon the individual specialization. Like the individuals in those regions, they are the specialists of their task. That is why that region has become famous or specialist in producing certain type of product. So we see when the level of specialization and division of labor is increasing, we are having more trading activities among the regions, among the individuals, and it will increase more of the economic growth of the country when it is adopting more of the specialization. Okay. Now another level of specialization is, that is the third level of specialization, that is called national level. When the countries, they are specialists. The third level of specialization is national level of specialization. National level of specialization. So actually, when the two nations, the two countries, they are the specialists of their product. If we talk about Japan, that is producing technological products, and our specialization is about cotton and textile. So they are producing technology, whereas Pakistan is producing more cotton and textile. which is based upon cotton production. So we say we are the agrarian economy, we are having the primary level of specialization, whereas the Japan is producing technology, or England is producing specialist services of education and health. So they are the specialists of their services. So when these countries are achieving the level of specialization, that is called national specialization. And what type of trade will be emerging due to these specialization? That is called international trade. International trade. Now you see, as the level of specialization has achieved its national level, so the volume of trade is now quite gigantic. It is very high. Now countries individually they were dealing in single units, 2 units, 3 units. In regional level, we had more level of trading activities among two regions. So when two countries are trading with each other, they will also become dependent upon each other. This is the drawback of specialization, that it creates interdependence. So we cannot have the products produced by other things when we are finding the specialization. So technology can be purchased from Japan and they can purchase cotton from us. So this will make us dependent upon each other, and we will have more stronger political and trading relationships with other countries when we are trading with them. So trade is actually a binding element among the individuals, among the regions, and among the nations. So trading is promoted due to this level of specialization. But specialization, when we have a single range of product to specialize, and the market conditions they are changing, that there is a decline in that product demand, then it will result into massive unemployment in that region, in that profession, or in that country. So nowadays we find that one country, one region, that should also be diversifying. It should be specializing in more than one commodity, that if there is decline in one commodity, it should not be having decline in the national income growth, and it should be promoting the trading in other goods. Like Pakistan is no more having specialization dependent upon the cotton and textile. It is also producing rice, it is also producing surgical items, it is also producing many types of goods to sell to other countries. So this shows that although specialization is beneficial, but we should have a diversified range of the products, which should be the results of diversified specialization. So in that case, we will have more products to be supplied, more trading activities will take place, and that will give us more economic growth in the countries. And when trading is increasing, it will create more employment opportunities, national income of the people, national income of country will also be increasing, living standard of the people will be increasing. That all depends upon trade and economic activities. Now, we have used a word trade. I am using different types of trades, and then I will be coming towards a medium of trade, how trading is possible among the individuals, among the nations and regions. So we say trade is what? Exchange of the goods and services. Trade. Exchange of goods and services. Exchange of goods and services. You might be knowing there can be a domestic trade like which is taking place within the country, geographical boundaries of a country. There can be foreign trade, international trade like exports and imports. But right now I'm talking about the ancient type of trade that is called barter trade. What do you mean by barter trade? It means the goods are exchanged with goods. Goods are exchanged with goods. Goods are exchanged with goods. Previously, when there was no a single medium of exchange like money, so people were having different types of goods with them and they were trading with each other. Like one person is holding rice, another is holding eggs, another is holding wheat, another is holding other types of goods, or majority of goods are held by people. So whatever they are demanding, they exchange one type of good with the other in which they are in demand. So that is called a barter trade. It was having a problem. What was the problem of barter trade? It requires coincidence of wants. Coincidence of wants. What do you mean by coincidence? Like if I want to sell rice in exchange of maybe other commodities like iPhone, the person who is having iPhone, he should be in demand of rice. Then exchange of these two goods will be taking place. Like the wants of two people, those who are involved in trade of the goods, their wants should be coinciding with each other. Whatever I want to exchange with rice, that should be present with the other person who is wanting rice from me. If he is not having the same thing which I want to have, then trade will not be taking place. So the first problem is that coincidence of wants should be there among the people when they are trading with each other on barter system. So it is requiring more. It is more difficult trade when we don't have a single medium of exchange. There is no money involved, only the goods are exchanged with goods. So it is increasing waiting and searching costs. Waiting, we have to wait. Waiting and searching cost. Due to this thing, trade will become slower and slower. Although it is having a good thing that we are not involving money, a single transaction is taking place, but it is very difficult to have a single transaction until unless we have coincidence of wants among the trading partners. So another thing which is having in problem of the barter system, that is measuring element. How to measure the value, measuring value. Like if we are exchanging television with the iPhone, so their values are quite different. Their values cannot be same. How much quantity of televisions, like 2 televisions, 1 television will be used to exchange for 1 iPhone? Okay, it depends. If 2.5 televisions are there, so if we are making a half of television, there will be no television. All right. So we have a different problem in measuring the value of the goods in barter system. Like people were having cow to exchange with one type of product, maybe rice. So if half of cow is the value of the rice another person is having, so in that case, how can we make the half cow payment to the rice seller? So this makes us problematic that barter system is having so many problems. Coincidence of wants is not there, waiting and searching cost is there, the measuring value of the products is quite difficult in barter system. That is why world gave way to a monetary trade. Monetary trade. Monetary trade means what? Now we are using a single medium of exchange that is called money. A single medium of exchange. A single medium of exchange which is acceptable by everyone in that area, in that country. So when I want to buy an iPhone, what happens? I have to sell rice first of all in the market and get money, and then approach the person who is having iPhone. Then there are 2 transactions which are taking place in monetary trade, but they are easier than barter. I have to sell my product to the person who is in demand of that product and get money out by selling that product, and out of that money, which is also accepted by the person who is having iPhone or anything which I want to buy, so that money is involving 2 transactions, whereas barter was involving a single transaction. In barter system, the transaction was difficult because of these problems, but in monetary trade, we have 2 transactions, but they are easier than barter because it is not involving coincidence of wants. So when we are increasing trading activities and there is a medium of exchange, money used by the people, those who are involved in trading activities, so the trade will be further increasing. Like we have produced, here are the products, they are converted into money by selling them, and they are again, that money will be again converted into product. So this specialization is making more money in the economy by selling the products again and again, and that money is also converted into products again and again. So it is begetting money, it is having more trade, more employment opportunities, more economic activities taking place. So that will give us more economic growth. So money is now playing a very important role in the economic activities. If it is generally acceptable by all the people in that economy, or if we are involved in international trade, then we need internationally accepted money. Like dollars, they are internationally accepted. Our currency, rupees, Pakistan rupees, or Indian rupees, or other currencies of the world, they are not internationally accepted. So we need a money in international trade which is accepted by all the people who are trading in international trade. So in that way, we will be using internationally accepted money. But in case of domestic trade, in case of our national trade, we are using a national money which is generally acceptable in our country, and it is recognized by the people that we are using this type of money in our economy. So I will be taking my lesson from tomorrow from this point. Money is having different characteristics. If I write down the characteristics now, and then I will be continuing the rest of the things in our next class. So what are the characteristics of money? If we are using one thing as money, so what are the characteristics of money? What are the characteristics of money? First, it should be acceptable. If anything which is not acceptable by the people, it cannot perform the functions of money. Second is that it should be portable, acceptable and recognized as well. If something is not recognized, then we cannot use it as a money. So we say portable, that it should be easy to port money from one place to another. It should not be like a bulky item which cannot be ported from one place to another. So the second characteristic, it should be portable. Third, it should be divisible. Like we are having 5,000 rupees note as the largest note in our economy, in our market, but it is further divided into smaller currency notes and coins, maybe 1,000, 500, and then 100, and so on. So if money is not divisible, we cannot use that thing as money. Previously, cow was used as money. So cow was indivisible. If we divide cow, there was no more cow. So the characteristic of money should be acceptable, portable, divisible, and then it should be portable, divisible, and then it should be stable. Its value should not be fluctuating. Okay, we have one thing, it can be acceptable, portable, divisible, stable, scarce, and limited in value. Okay, limited in quantity, it will give us scarcity. I am not remembering one of the characteristics. It is stable, it is portable, it is divisible, and it should be what should I say? Like it should have been durable as well. Money should also be durable, like there should be a life pertaining to money. If anything which is not durable, like our currency notes are having their lives. If they are pirated again and again, the people will not be having trust on them. So anything which is durable, portable, divisible, stable, and scarce, that 6 characteristics are present in one thing that can be used as money as a medium of exchange. If we put all these things, like if I say check, a banking check, we are frequently using them in form of money in order to exchange the goods and services. So sometimes in trading activities, people are not accepting the checks. What are the reasons they are not accepted? Sometimes if I write a check to a seller in the market, he says that he does not know whether money is present in my account or not. That check can be bounced. So it is only representing money, but it does not tell us whether a person who is holding that check is also having money in his account. So checks, if they are not acceptable, then they cannot perform the other functions of money. The other characteristic, we are not looking at them until unless this is acceptable. You can also see a credit card. This is called a plastic money or a debit card. So wherever they are acceptable, if I go to the vegetable seller, he is not having POS machine in order to receive the payment through credit card or debit card. So in that place, credit card cannot be accepted and it cannot perform the functions of money or debit card. So wherever we find that the POS machine, the readable machine is present, which are used by the sellers in order to receive the payments. So they are accepting the payments of the credit cards and debit cards. So if they are not accepting through credit card, we cannot say they are used as money. Like debit card is showing us the money present in our account. If our account is emptied, so we cannot use debit card as money. Okay, there can be other forms of modern money, like nowadays we are having electronic money. Okay. Electronic money, like electronically we make the payments and receive the payments. If they are acceptable, that is called most advanced form of money. Like modern banking, we are having online banking. We can have different types of other modes of money. So these are the 6 characteristics. If they are present in any of the commodity, that could be used as money. Money is like a commodity. Okay, so characteristics I have completed today. Then in the next class, I will be doing the functions of money. And then our trading, keep it in mind, when money is more apparently present, it is accepted, it will promote trade and economic activities in the country. That's all for today. Inshallah, we will see again by tomorrow to have the same topic continued. And then I will be doing the economic systems and PPC in order to complete this first chapter, inshallah. So that's all for today. Thank you.